The Shara Kedusha, Reb Chaim Vital, tells us that man, woman, we have three dimensions of self: a neshama, a godly intellect; ruach, a spirit, an emotional self; and a guf, an animal self, made up of our limbs. When an event happens to us, it affects our ruach, our emotions. Each of us has a standard emotion that we feel during the day. When we introspect and analyze ourselves and reflect on ourselves, we realize that each of us has one or two main emotions we have during the day. I work as a psychologist with people who have anxiety. My expertise is anxiety. So let's say something happens and a child has an exam coming up, and the exam comes and it affects my emotions. I get anxious. I get worried. What if I fail? What if I don't make it? What if I don't get into college? I'll fail myself, and then I will fail my parents, and I'll fail my potential, and I won't actualize myself. So I'm very nervous that I will fail by showing anxiety. Anxiety means I am in doubt as to what the outcome is going to be. Anxiety means I am facing the unknown and I am afraid of the unknown. It's uncertain. That's what anxiety is. I'm afraid of the uncertainty of what's going to happen. So I see the exam, I don't know what's going to happen, and therefore my emotions go, oh, I'm anxious. Why? Because I'm uncertain. So we have an option. We can go either from here and down into gravity and say, oh my gosh, I'm starting to shake. I'm starting to be nervous because I don't know. I'm starting to sweat. My palms get wet and I start to shake and I start to become very nervous. I get butterflies in my stomach. I have to go to the bathroom because I'm so overwhelmed with anxiety of what's going to happen. What will happen to me if I fail this exam? This is caused by the ruach, the emotions, being drawn down into gravity, into the body, into the nefesh habahamis, and my body takes over. Which means my emotions are connected to my body, and I go into this loop. Anxiety affects my emotions, goes down into my body, gravity, and I go, start hyperventilating. My eyes got dilated. I start breathing heavy, higher blood pressure. I get very nervous, shaky. I can't think straight because there's adrenaline in my body. Actually, what happens is that the anxiety, the uncertainty causes a danger signal to go to the brain. The brain sends out a signal to the adrenal glands to emit adrenaline. And because of adrenaline, my body starts reacting with a strong reaction because I don't know what's going to happen. So I get into the mode of fight or flight. I have to either run away from this exam, I have to run away from it, or I have to fight this exam. Or if I imagine that there's a tiger in the room, I engage automatically in a signal to my brain says threat, danger. The body, the brain sends out a signal to the adrenals saying send out adrenaline. My body becomes very, very tense and ready to fight the intruder or to run away from the intruder. This is the functionality, this is the physiology of anxiety. Anxiety comes, my emotions are peaked, it goes into my body, the brain sends out a message, adrenaline, and I become hypertense and ready to fight the intruder or to run away from the intruder. And I get into this loop where I get stuck in this loop of seeing a danger or a perceived danger, goes into my heart, I get afraid, adrenaline, and I react this way. So I suggest to my clients that when you see this happening, instead of going into gravity, stop, slow down, breathe, do this 3 times, slow down, and ask yourself, I can respond to this so-called threat, the perceived threat, by going autopilot into my body. I can do that. It's a matter of choice. Or I can choose to go against gravity, to my neshama, to my intellect, and ask myself, how can I handle this threat? Do I have to send out adrenaline, a message to my brain saying danger, threat, exam coming? Therefore, I have to respond with adrenaline and therefore fight or flight and get nervous and get overwhelmed. Or I can stop and say, 1 second. Exam. Okay. How can I handle this? Let me think. What talents do I have? What strengths do I have? What kochos do I have? Well, I can study. I can do a timetable before the exam a week before, plan 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day of study. I can get a tutor. I can analyze the material. I can get flashcards. I can slow down and get enough sleep. I can eat right. I have the kochos and ability to pick up the phone and say, teacher, could you help me? I need a tutor. I need some help. Ask my parents, can I get a tutor to help me in this math? I can use my resources here and seek out answers of how I can use my internal kochos to bring out my tzuras adam, to respond to the situation, not from my animal self, my nefesh habahamis, my instinctive, impulsive self of losing it and letting adrenaline course through my body, but I can slow down, send a message to my brain saying I can choose to go up here against gravity and say, 1 second, how can I deal with this? How can I activate my tzuras adam, my abilities and kochos, which represent God, which resemble, which reflect Hashem's tzelem Elokim, and use my resources to solve the problem? Hashem gives the refuah before the makkah. We already have the abilities. And I believe that every challenge in life is meant to bring out a koach that has remained dormant within ourselves. If we go automatically into the loop of, I am overwhelmed, send on adrenaline, I can't handle this, and I use my instinctive, impulsive response, I will be stuck in the loop of anxiety. If I stop, slow down, and choose to go against gravity up here and say, what can I do to solve this problem? How can I handle this issue? How can I cope with this issue? I may not even be able to solve the problem, but I can learn to cope with the problem. And therefore, I can access any problem that comes is centered here in my ruach, and then I can choose. I have bechira. I can choose to go down or up. Sometimes a person is so overwhelmed, they need medication to be able to help them calm down, to be able to access their free will, to be able to choose to go down or up. Sometimes we are in a pattern. Sometimes the brain is fixed in that way or wired in that way, and sometimes it needs medication. But the optimum approach to overcoming anxiety is to use CBT, to use these techniques of psychodynamic therapy, which I do, the techniques of gestalt therapy, of experiential therapy, of experiencing this dimion, this example, this metaphor of choosing to go up versus choosing to go down, and training oneself to overcome the impulsive response.